Hey guys, I'm super psyched to announce I got my first sponsor, Santa Cruz Skateboards. It's such a freaking dream. I can't believe I finally got sponsored by a skateboard company, even though it's not for my skating, it's for my speaking. But I've been a skater since 1982 and I was 12 years old. I'm so honored. This company was based on punk rock and art. I actually found them in 1983. The Jim Phillips Screaming Hand and the Jeff Kendall board, which I actually posted a picture of me skating the original model on my Instagram recently. And I actually think there's a reissue of it right now. So many amazing designs from the 80s. This company stepped up. They gave me my 20% off code. My code is NHSToby. Go to NHSFunFactory.com. USA citizens only. One per customer. Santa Cruz products only. And you can't combine this offer with others. It expires on March 10th at 12 midnight. Santa Cruz Skateboards, thank you so much. This is such a dream for me to come true. I finally got sponsored by you, by a company I looked up to and admired since a child. I really appreciate your support, and I look forward to working with you moving forward. Thank you, everybody, for listening.
One life, one chance, gotta do it right. One life, one chance, gotta do it right.
Hanging on to traditional values and defending cultural norms. It's literally the opposite of everything I've stood for.
You wouldn't have RBG. You wouldn't have a root grader.
Yeah. I can't believe I turned into the old guy who's saying fucking kids today, but I am. I fucking am.
Someone's
like,
got to.
I always said, like, if I have kids, they'll never be able to piss me off. The only thing they could ever do to piss me off is become a Republican. Mm-hmm. And now it's fucking, my kids it hasn't happened, but a lot of the kids in the scene, it has happened.
100%.
And it's like, what the fuck? I don't give a fuck. I don't need those fans. They can go.
I know.
That's how I feel. I'm not telling you how to feel, but that's how I feel.
But it's crazy when you hear about people in punk rock bands that are Republicans.
Yeah.
That's weird.
And I think it was okay to have that point of view until this guy started running the show. You know, until Trump, it was there was a gray area. But once Trump became manifest,
I agree with you that there's room in the world for different points of view, and a normal Republican is way left of Trump. Actually, you know, to tell the truth, a normal Republican from the olden days, right, is far to the left of a totalitarian leader, right? There's still room. Yeah. There's still liberal ideas there. You know, I don't think there's anything wrong with family values or lower taxation if that's what someone cares about more than helping the poor and being an individual, like whatever, right? That's a conversation. But the problem is I don't think Trump has any values. No. Trump is a kleptocrat who's out there to grab power, hold on to it, and make him and his family richer. And the thing is, the bad guys in the Senate and in Congress are sort of these extreme right-wingers who are using this Trump moment to push their reactionary right-wing ideals, which is don't let a woman control the reproductive rights of her own body, don't give people freedoms, take away voting rights, suppress. It's just like
repeal.
You know, so that's the problem, right? And so all Republicans who don't condemn Trump or denounce him are complicit in this swing to the hard right, 100%. Including whether you're a punker or you're a priest or a rabbi or whatever, the mom or whatever the fuck you are. You know, that's how I feel about it. If you don't condemn him, you're with him, and you know, he literally has no values. There's no discernible values in his fucking
and there's no loyalty
body.
There's no loyalty to anything
except for him and his family. But probably not even his family. It's just mostly to him. It's all about himself.
I honestly think he's a psychopath. I truly believe it.
Yeah, he
truly believe it.
Mental problems. Yeah. How the fuck does that guy stay in office though?
I don't know. But these guys like McConnell and Ryan and all these Republicans who got on the Trumpist train, right? They are demagogues. They are promoting an ideology of which is not friendly to democracy.
What's really scary is the damage to the fabric of the United States that he's done. Like, people no longer trust the media. Yeah. And that's probably going to continue even after.
It's going to get worse than that for sure.
Yeah. You know, people are starting to distrust democracy. People are starting at every election's suspect, and there's like a whiff of dishonesty in
Republicans, these kids in the alt-right, they don't love democracy. They don't value democracy. What they value is a strong leader and purity and loyalty and honor. You know, I had a kid say to me the other day, "Fuck a punk." He said, "Fuck democracy. Democracy is the tyranny of the majority."
What the fuck?
What the fuck? You know, it's like, okay, well, look at until we all live in an anarchist paradise together. How about democracy, right?
Seems to work okay.
Is democracy?
See, but what you're saying.
The tyranny of the majority, because the majority get their way and the minority don't. Yeah, no, it's bullshit. It's obviously bullshit.
What you mentioned about the ideology is really interesting. Like, I'm from Venezuela, and I saw, Chavez and that whole thing. In Trump is saying, and McConnell, they're saying the same things that he said.
Yeah.
They're talking points that have been perfected from Russia, Cuba,
from
and all
Chavez to Putin to all these,
Putin, McConnell,
great. We're not recording yet.
They're smart. They want that.
Yeah,
they have that ideology. Trump has no idea. He just wants to be safe and be corrupt and be kleptocratic and all this shit and have, like Toby said, have his family.
I don't think Trump has no idea. I do think he's smart, and I think that the ideological one is Steve Bannon. Right. But
who's gone?
But Trump is a charismatic leader, and he knows that right before a midterm election, go out there and scare the heck out of people. Right. Talk about the caravan. Talk about immigration. Talk about Ebola viruses. Talk about whatever. Day after the midterms, there's not a word about the caravan anymore. Right.
Yeah.
So that's a page from the Putin playbook, and Trump is sticking to it pretty well. Right?
It's great that 100 million.
I'm not saying that it's in service of an ideology for Trump. Right. It's simply in the service of power. Yeah. If something worked better, he'd do it. Yeah. If something worked better, he'd say it. I mean, day one of his presidency, he just started blasting untruths, right?
Yeah.
So that he was not trying to convince people he was telling the truth. He was trying to convince people that I can lie so fast that nobody can possibly know the truth anymore. So stop caring about truth. Yeah. That's what he wanted to do. Yeah. Right?
It's true,
That's
man.
unprecedented.
Yeah.
Like every politician lies. Yeah. No politician ever lies so much because their goal is to get people to give up on ever even seeking the truth, so they can just seek refuge in the shelter of their filter bubble on Fox News or their Facebook group and only hear the point of view that makes them feel more comfortable. Yeah. Right? Yeah. So that's what he's doing. Yeah.
It's cool. It's cool. 100 million.
It's
people
nothing
voted.
to do with Epitaph and H2O. So we can move on to other
No,
stuff.
but I like this. I'm going to record it. But I liked that 100 million people voted. That's amazing, right? The biggest midterm election ever in the history of America is like, that's huge. Yeah. And like some of the first women were elected, and the first
a lot of women were elected.
Gay man was elected.
Yeah. No, there's a lot of good stuff, and
there's a lot of positive stuff from it.
Some positive stuff.
And then with the House being reclaimed, will hopefully create a bit more of a system of checks and balances, so he doesn't get too wild.
The big problem is Facebook, really. I mean, without Facebook, we would never have a Trump. Yeah. And it's breaking society up. It really is. Yeah. It's killing society.
It's super political, Facebook, right? It's like it's super. I'm not on there, but I know my friends are just super intense and just super in your face, right, all day long.
It's radicalizing people.
Are you on there?
Well, I mean, I'm on it because I have a record label. I have to like promote the new song to Every Time I Die's fan base, whatever.
Yeah.
But no, I'm not personally. I haven't put a family picture on there or checked in with my aunt on Facebook in years. I don't use it for that.
Yeah.
And I certainly don't use it for news anymore at all.
Yeah.
It's too dangerous. Yeah. It's bullshit.
Actually, I'd go in and remove anything because I don't want anything to be out there
there's
anymore.
There's a new article. It's an op-ed in today's New York Times about the danger of Facebook and how a lot of things would have never happened had it not been for Facebook. The rally in Charlottesville, a lot of these mass shootings, the very election of Trump itself. It's all this stuff is Facebook's
people organizing shit on there, huh?
Yeah, I mean, Facebook's business model is not aligned with the welfare of society. What it's aligned with doing is just whipping people up into a pissed off frenzy about whatever the thing is. That's what Facebook is good for. They're pretending to be good for sharing family photos.
Yeah. It started off
reconnecting with people from high school and shit.
Man, I miss cat videos.
It's good for that, but that's not what it's for anymore.
Yeah. It's all about that.
That doesn't get as many clicks.
Yeah. It's about the clicks and the fucking all the social media shit.
Yeah, let's talk about H2O. Let's talk about your podcast.
Yeah. Sorry about that, Mr. Brett. We just got cut up talking about politics. We are live at Epitaph Records. I want to say that Epitaph Records and Discord Records are like the last remaining independent record labels in the world. Physical, actual buildings. I'm not sure if that's true or not, but I don't really fact check here like my man Mike Rappaport. But I just want to say that I think that that could be true or false. But I'm going to say it's true.
Oh, I don't know. You can say it. I won't argue. Yeah. I don't really know. Yeah, there's a lot of indie labels out there. There's some cool indie labels now that have punk bands are like Top Shelf, Run for Cover, Tiny Engines. They're doing like there's.
But for how many years? This started in 1980, didn't it?
Well, yeah. I mean, I think it's sort of the official. There was sort of a few little starts. So I put out our first 7-inch I put out Bad Religion's first 7-inch in 1980 or 81. And then
How Can Hell Be Any Worse?
How Could Hell Be Any Worse in 81 or 82?
81, yeah.
Yeah. And then put out Vandals Peace Through Vandalism around that time.
Yeah.
And it put out around that time.
And it's been how many years?
Well, we've been in this building since 94, so I guess that's 24 years.
Ladies and gentlemen, that is the voice of Brett Gurewitz. You may know him from Epitaph or Bad Religion. So thanks for making time out for us today, Brett Gurewitz.
Thanks for having me.
You might know him as from Mr. Brett, Please Put Down Your Gun, from our 30-second song we did.
30 seconds.
Mr. Brett, please put down your gun. Mr. Brett, please put down your gun.
Oh man, we were just kidding, dude. He's coming in here.
Oh shit, he really does have a gun. Get out of here.
No, seriously, he's aiming the gun at us.
It's only a joke.
No shit.
Oh yeah, that was from Fat Records, man. The Short Music for Short People compilation. Remember we were in the studio with Brett doing FTTW in 1999. Fat Mike hit us up, and then we did that 30-second songs. I don't know what it had to do with guns. I don't know if we had any guns in the studio. I don't remember that at all. But yeah, that's where that came from. That's a fucking awesome memory I would never forget. And yeah, we have a lot to talk about. You started Epitaph Records. We just talked about that briefly in 1980, and then 81 or 80 put out the first Bad Religion 7-inch, and then 81 was like How Can Hell Be Any Worse?
Yep.
And then I think Peace Through Vandalism was after that, Vandals, right?
Yep, the Vandals, Peace Through
And then
Vandalism.
I think a bunch of Bad Religion releases, right? Before you did, obviously, Rancid and Pennywise and NoFX.
Yeah, so those very early records I sort of did as a kid when I was living at home with my parents.
Yeah.
And then sort of had a second sort of a restart for Epitaph in the mid 80s, and that's when we put out L7 and Suffer, Bad Religion, Suffer,
great record,
those kind of records. And that's what I kind of look at as the official start. And I reissued How Could Hell Be Any Worse at that time and stuff like that.
Okay, it was did you write, it was 21st Century on that too?
21st Century Digital Boy was on Against the Grain.
Okay.
Yeah.
But then it was re-recorded later on, correct?
And it was re-recorded in 94 for the Stranger Than Fiction album produced by Andy Wallace. So
wow, Andy Wallace.
Yeah, his recording of it's cool. I like the old one too, though.
So that was the 80s, man. That's before we even started going to shows, because we didn't start till like 83, 84, like in DC and stuff, right?
The first 12-inch EP.
I think we saw Bad Religion back then, though.
The Bad Religion with Early Man Walked Away, or Early Man.
Early Man. So Only Gonna Die is what you're referring to, and that was on the. Our first LP. It was on How Could Hell Be Any Worse? Yeah.
So you've been here for such a long time and been doing this for a very long time, and I thank you for that, because you put a lot of records out that actually help bands like us have longevity still because of the success of other bands. How do you think you stayed this long, and what do you credit to your longevity in being here for so long and still putting out records and still have the passion for it?
Well, that's a good question. I guess, one of the reasons is that I've been really lucky, and a lot of the groups that I've signed, a lot of the records I put out turned out to be, really talented artists and who made really enduring records.
Yeah.
And so, there's my band, and those records have turned into sort of, cult classics.
Yeah.
Those early records.
Staples.
But even the earliest stuff I put out, one of the first bands I signed was L7, then NoFX, then Pennywise, then Down by Law, then Rancid, then Offspring. So it's literally there were almost no bands in between those. Like that's the order that I signed some
Crazy,
bands.
man.
Oh, and the Vandals, So
Yeah.
so I don't know. Maybe back then, it wasn't the same as today, where anybody who made a song could just put it on Spotify or SoundCloud
Or YouTube, yeah, do video,
so
yeah.
so back then there weren't as many records, and usually a band needed to either do it themselves if they had the resources, which not everybody did. I was lucky; my parents helped me get things started and
Awesome.
have a little DIY label, so you either had to have the resources to DIY, do it yourself, or you had to find an indie label, and I don't know, so. It's not like I was listening to hundreds of demo tapes, and out of those demo tapes I picked No Effects because they were the cream of the crop. It's I'm not. I didn't have any special ESP of who was going to be big.
Yeah.
It's like I had a studio. I was a recording engineer for $15 an hour, just barely making ends meet. Fat Mike's brought his band into my recording studio to do some recording, and I was like, and he did that because he liked my band.
Yeah,
right?
Yeah.
And he liked the way I made my band sound. So he brought his band into my studio, and I was like, you guys are sick. Can I put your record out on Epitaph? It was just like that. It wasn't like, what I mean? So I guess what I'm saying is luck played a part.
Yeah.
I guess,
Friendships and fans.
Friendships, relationships, there's a good dose of luck. And also hard work and believing in the music, and then also learning from my predecessors. There were indie labels in the past, and I saw all my friends and bands getting burned by their labels, right? Posh Boy, an old friend of mine, I'm not trying to diss him, but he never paid a band. SST were not known for paying their bands. So indie labels have always been thought of as being cooler than majors. Yeah. But the truth is that a lot of the indie labels in the past hadn't figured out how to pay royalties for one reason or another, right? Yeah. Maybe that's just because they weren't that good at business and they got upside down. I'm not judging anybody. Yeah. But when I saw that happening, I said, you know what? If I'm going to do this, I'm going to be fair with my bands. I'm not going to do this and be some kind of pariah in the community.
Because you're in a band too, and it's like,
I'm in a band.
Yeah, exactly.
And bands were my friends. So
yeah.
So on one hand, I was lucky. I might have been a little smart and hardworking. And then also I learned from my predecessors that, you know what? Keep your nose clean. If you say you're going to do something, do it. If you owe somebody $1, pay them $1. Yeah. And so I did that. And those are the things I've done. And for one reason or another, I'm still here.
And you did do that. I know we're fast forwarding a little bit, but what you just said, if you're going to say something, do it. When we came here, we were about to sign with you. We came into the walkthrough here, and there was a bunch of these lowrider bicycles that Voodoo Glow Skulls were going to have. And I was like, we want those bikes. And he's like, put them in your contract. So we put them in a contract, and we got those bikes shipped to New York. So thank you for that.
You're very welcome.
You were with that.
You're probably the only ones in New York with
we were back then.
Cali lowrider bikes.
Exactly, we were. So yeah, thank you for that.
I think they got a total of maybe 2 miles on maybe all of them as a collective.
Yeah. Oh, because those were not made for riding. No.
But so what was like the first release, I guess big release that you're like, holy shit, like, because I mean from what I heard you were selling CDs out of I don't know if it's true, out of like a garage, like Offspring or something, they blew up. You were selling so many records. So what was the record before that started taking off in punk rock?
Well, I mean, for me what happened was really sort of lucky timing, because we put out How Could Hell Be Any Worse in 81. Then we sort of all went our separate ways for a few years into the mid 80s. So Greg went to college. I went to vocational school, learned to be a recording engineer, and I was getting jobs working in recording studios and doing that kind of stuff. Yeah. And so, and the band played the odd show here and there, but for 4 or 5 years, the group was really on half steam. Okay. And then in 87, when I decided to start Epitaph up again, because we were going to record Suffer, I called up some distributors and they were all, hey, how could Hell Be Any Worse? That record's a classic. We want to buy,
oh shit,
a bunch of them from you, right? And I was like, really? So during that sort of sleepy period, our debut album had become a cult classic, so that as a result of that, when people found out we were going to do a new record, which was Suffer, people were like, oh man, we got to have that. Right. So literally sort of the first record I put out after restarting the label, did really well. Suffer, like, Maximum Rock and Roll called it Best Album of the Year. Flipside Magazine called it Best Album of the Year. Those were sort of like the punk rock Bibles at the time. There was no internet. There were no blogs. So, like, that was it. That was like getting in Spin and Rolling Stone.
Yeah, Maximum Rock and Roll was the shit.
Of punk. You know what I mean? Yeah. So that was our first big record. It did pretty good. It did like 10,000 here and 10,000 in Europe, and it started blowing us up in Germany. So that, and then it was sort of the first one, but I mean,
started going steamboat.
I mean, NoFX Rib did really well.
Oh yeah.
Pennywise debut album did pretty well. Rancid self-titled did pretty well. It was almost like everything I put out. It's like Suffer started this little ball rolling, and people who like that California melodic hardcore sound.
Yeah.
Were interested in the next thing I'd put out. And then, and I was producing all those records. So I was helping those bands, like, teaching what I knew about production and melody and so forth. So, which I tried to help with you guys with too on your record a little bit, even though trying to, be respectful of the New York hardcore sound as well.
Yeah.
But
it just seems that there's that point in the late 90s where just like it was classic after classic coming out. I mean, you had Out Come the Wolves, Full Circle, Everything Sucks.
Yeah,
like the Agnostic Front record.
Right, then a Descendants record.
Murphy's,
Yeah.
Everybody looked to Epitaph for putting out these records.
But right, because the last one was good, everyone looked to us, and then the next one was good too, right? And so, a milestone for us, the first record I ever shipped 100,000 of was Against the Grain. Believe it or not, Bad Religion Against the Grain. So that was it was Suffer, No Control, Against the Grain, and that one shipped 100,000. And at that time, it was sort of Bad Religion, Fugazi were like the two big punk bands or hardcore bands, whatever you want to call it, in the U.S. Like we both could play at Palladium at that time. You know what I mean?
On that album?
Yes.
Great song, great breakdown.
So that was a big breakthrough, and at that time, shortly after that, I think I signed Offspring, and we put out Ignition, which was the first record by them. And, it wasn't the biggest record in the world, but Ignition probably sold from 30 to 50,000.
Solid.
Solid, yeah.
And
was gold, basically.
Yeah. So there were a lot of groups selling records, selling, a decent amount of records.
Was
each.
Green Day blown up too at that point?
Green Day was on Lookout, and they were probably like, Green Day at that time were like about as, like a little, they were smaller than Op Ivy, you know what I mean?
Okay.
Like they were pretty big. They were like, maybe about as big as NoFX, or, and, they could sell out Gilman.
And I feel like the stuff in Epitaph started blowing up, and then the Dookie thing kind of went. It was all in the same kind of time, right?
Yeah, I mean, Green Day. So when we did Recipe for Hate, right? We did our Recipe for Hate tour. Green Day were mixing their album Dookie.
Okay.
And they were opening for us on that tour.
Wow.
So we were going around and we were playing like, big rooms, like, 1,500 seaters,
What year was that?
1,000 seaters. Wow. I think 93.
Okay.
Yeah. And Green Day were opening for us, like main support for a band like us, which meant, they were sort of as big as NoFX or Offspring, something like that. Pennywise, that's what size they were.
Wow.
And then we put out Offspring Smash, and it blew up and started going gold and platinum. And then right after that, Dookie came out.
So when the Offspring blew up, what office were you at? A small office at that point? Like a couple people working there?
Yes. So we were... you've been down there, right? Have you not?
The one before
this?
This
Office
was
on
the
Santa
only
Monica?
one we've
Oh, this is the
been
one?
to.
Okay,
Yeah.
yeah. So, we were in a small office on Santa Monica Boulevard, right on, I think the cross streets were Santa Monica and Argyle.
Oh, yeah.
Near Santa Monica and Vine. And it was basically a little warehouse space, but it had a little office inside the warehouse. And, it was like 5 people. It
Wow.
was like, so the story you're the story you mentioned that you heard was, so the Offspring started selling so rapidly that my whole place was filled with Offspring records, and there wasn't even room to walk anymore, all the way up to the ceiling. And then we started renting out extra storage spaces downtown, and those things were filled up. And so eventually, I had to look for a bigger building, which I found this place. But I thought this place was so big that we'd use half for the office, half for the warehouse. And I did buy this place. But then by the time we were able to start getting in here, this place was way too small to hold all the records.
Damn. I remember coming to so much shit here,
so then we had to make this just be the office and get a big warehouse somewhere else.
Was that just for CDs and LPs?
Back then it was cool. We had three formats: LP, CD, and cassette.
Yeah.
And we had to make all three. Man. You remember that, right? Those days you'd be like, "Oh, what do I want to buy it on?" You'd have the cassette for your car. Yeah. Now there's everything's on your phone. I know.
How do you think that the switch to digital affected the music industry?
Well, do you mean the switch to streaming, or do you mean the switch to CD, or to streaming?
That's a great question.
Well, I mean, it changed everything. It put most of the major labels out of business. If you notice, there's only 3 major labels now. There used to be 7, right?
Wow.
Yeah.
So, at first, it made the business smaller and smaller and smaller, so that all the majors had to sort of merge. And now there's 3 left, where there used to be 7. And so that's one thing it did. It also leveled out the difference between the majors and the indies, because it used to be that there were chain stores, and it was hard to get into them for punk bands. So punk records were hard to find. But now there's no record stores at all, right? And if any band that puts out a record or a song, everyone in the world can listen to it the same minute. Right?
Sure,
So in that sense, that's pretty revolutionary. And you'd think that would be a purely positive result, which I would too.
Yeah.
Except that, as often happens, the big tech companies that were profiting from all of this weren't really sharing any of the love with the people who are the creators. So in the beginning, there was a lot of rip-offery happening. It's getting better now. Spotify is paying. YouTube still doesn't pay equitably, in my opinion, but Google does. So, I could go on, but it's getting good now. And I think at the end of the day, I think the music fan is a winner. I think the legacy artist who has a body of work out there that's beloved from Led Zeppelin to Minor Threat.
Yeah.
They're benefiting from it because people will continue to listen to that music for their lives, and they'll be paid, and it will never go out of stock. It will,
Yeah.
So so I think there've been some positive. There've been some positives and some negatives, and hopefully over time the negatives will dissipate, and it'll be a net positive.
I like that vinyl is still big.
Yeah, me too. We
That's
do a lot of
amazing.
vinyl at Epitaph, and that's cool. And yeah, for me, I thought CDs were cool when they first came out because I'm just a nerd. Like anything new, I like it generally.
Yeah.
But I'm the opposite of a Luddite. But the truth is that, like, CDs are kind of, it turned out to not be that great anyway. They do scratch, and they have their problems, and endless reissues of newly remastered CDs with a stick of chewing gum in it and 2 extra bonus tracks gets a little tiring after a while, right?
Yeah.
So for me, having like the stream, for the pure music lover who just needs to hear it now, or needs to hear it on top of a mountain.
Yeah.
And the vinyl for the collector who likes to
have something in their hand.
Fetishize something and have something.
Yeah.
To me, that's a cool combination.
I do miss that, like going to a record store and getting something, or reading the thank yous, or looking at the layout and stuff.
Yeah. So now you can have that when you buy the vinyl.
Yeah.
But the truth is, I like streams better than downloads. I don't need to have a bunch of empty MP3s on my hard drive. So who needs it?
Who's your streaming service you like?
Well, of course, I like them all equally.
You know what? I need to get a service because I still buy shit off iTunes. I just have it on my phone. Like you stream from different things.
I stream.
I'm gonna start streaming too. I think it's easy.
Yeah, I'm streaming, and I'm not picking sides, but
I hear you.
I'm grateful for all the playlist editors who add our music to their big playlists on their big platforms.
This may sound like an old guy thing to say, but I do miss the ritual of going to the record store, and buying the record and scanning the thanks list for the next cool band. And then
be honest, you're just looking for your name on there. That's all. Yeah. That's why you just scan the thanks list to see if you're on there. That's what we all. Yeah. That's why we all miss it. I used to go to my local like record store, which had like punk rock imports, and they had the fanzines on the wall. And I used to go there and I'd check out the back pages of all the scene reports to see if there's anything about my own band. Yeah. That's what I used to do.
Shows and shit.
Yeah.
Did Maximum Rock and Roll review shows too, or just records? Flipside did shows, live shows.
There's live shows, there's records, there's scene reports. They would have gossip, whatever. You just look for your name in there anywhere.
Oddly enough, I saw a kid. He's like 24 years old wearing a Maximum Rock and Roll hoodie.
Really?
Oh, right.
I was like, how do you even know about that?
Yeah. They're historians.
Kids know about everything.
Kids are historians.
So, who was part of naming Bad Religion?
Well, I mean, me, Greg, and Jay were there. I think I came up with it.
Okay, awesome.
I'm not positive. I definitely came up with the logo.
Was that super controversial back then and got a lot of shit for that, or?
Yeah, totally. But I think even beyond being controversial, I think it helped the band a lot because, especially in Europe, where it's probably less controversial.
Totally.
But it's just so memorable.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? It's like...
it's such a powerful logo still.
Yeah.
Iconography.
Like, even back then, it's just like... A friend of mine the other day, I'm going to blow him up on this podcast. You know Chad Muska?
Yeah.
He's a famous skateboarder.
I don't know him, but yeah, I know.
He showed me his Bad Religion tattoo.
Oh, that's rad.
He did it himself when he was a kid.
Oh, that's
on
sick.
his ankle, and I was like, oh shit, it's awesome.
That's sick.
Yeah, so back then it was pretty. Yeah, that was pretty shocking logo. Now it pretty much still is.
Yeah, but we our first tour of Europe, the Bad Religion logo was just everywhere, and they snipe your tour posters in Europe, and it's just like something clicked in my head. It's like, whoa, yeah, that's like. That's like way better than a Nike swoosh. That's like look at that shit. Like you don't look at that and forget it very easily.
That's powerful.
That's a strong logo. You probably weren't even thinking branding back then.
Well, I was in my own immature way because like I was in the punk scene, right? And so many of the bands in my world had what turned out to be like such legendary logos. DK,
yeah, great,
right? Black Flag, probably the best punk rock logo of all time.
Yeah.
Like this is so simple.
Misfits had a skull.
Misfits.
7 Seconds logo. Love that shit.
Yeah. Like so, Social D. Like so the and in LA even smaller bands. China White had a rad logo. So bands had logos. You know what I mean? So we were like, I wasn't thinking of it in terms of like Mercedes or Air Jordan or something, but I was like, okay, we're a band. We need a punk name, and we need to have a name that can have a good logo. So.
It's so basic, but it says so much. You know what I mean? Like,
here's a question. Back then, because I remember going to so many shows in the mid or late '80s, and nobody sold merchandise. No one had a T-shirt. You made your own.
Yeah,
your own.
Yeah, totally. So we never sold merch in the old days. Yeah.
Because that's I was so on those tours.
Starting in the late '80s, I remember, we would start doing it. And Epitaph used to tell bands like, "Hey, like we'll buy you a bunch of shirts if you'll put the Epitaph logo on the back." So I was trying to,
That's awesome.
Yeah. So like in the early, I'm talking like 88, 89. If you see shirts like with like a big oversized Epitaph E on the back, that's probably I probably bought the. Oh, you probably had some too.
I think we had some too.
Yeah. Probably, maybe I made those for you.
I think you did. Yeah.
Yeah, a few of them.
Yeah, because I always thought it was. I know, say with Ian Mackay, it was his whole credo. It seemed like a $5 show, and there was never any merchandise. And it's like here's a band that is so influential that everybody wants a piece of them, but
people make their own shirts. Though.
You couldn't.
Their own shirts.
Yeah.
So
they make shirts now though.
So I always wondered where that tipping point where bands actually. Yeah. Because now that's pretty much when you're touring, that's a big chunk of your income could come from merchandising.
There's always been two sides of it in punk. Like there's always there's always been like sort of the, on the West Coast there was Maximum Rock and Roll and Flipside, and MRR were communists. Like Tim Yohannan was just straight up communist, and they would sell the thing for cost or whatever. Yeah. Flipside were just like punk rock,
glossy cover.
Yeah, glossy cover. Yeah. Sort of like. Fuck the system, anarchy, but it wasn't like they didn't mind capitalism, right? They wanted to make money selling magazines, right? Yeah. And then you had Epitaph and Discord, and I totally respect Ian, but you're right. It was like, he sort of felt that it wasn't ethical to really make much money out of punk, right? Where I've never had any problem with capitalism. I think capitalism is a beautiful thing. I think that I think that it's harmonious with classical liberal democracy, and I think that a lot of the prosperity in the world is because of democracy and capitalism. So I was always trying to blow my bands up and sell their records, and I don't want to make an unfair profit. But if I can make a T-shirt a kid loves and make a buck on it, I'll do it.
I never understood that, like, especially around that
but
time.
I respect the other point of view too. Like Crass were communists.
Yeah.
Like I get it, but it's just not me.
I never understood that. Like when all that stuff was happening, those bands are blowing up and like sell out. I remember they had the Epitaph sellout shirt. That was
I made that as a joke.
That's amazing. We used to roll this on the Warped Tour. So people call. I don't never understood that part of like, okay, we love this band so much, and now they're actually getting lots of more people liking them. Maybe they get in the radio or you see their video, and then they're a sellout. Then we don't like you no more. I never understood the mentality of like a band can't make a living off doing something they love. I never understood that.
Man, it happens. It's a dynamic. It happens not just in music. It happens in everything. Like happens in business, happens in religion, happens in fashion, right? Like let's say you're part of some church, right? And it's you get a lot out of it. It's your community church, and but then it gets bigger and bigger and starts getting really popular. Yeah. It turns into a mega church. Then people will be like, I'm just not getting what I used to get out of this church. It's too big now. Yeah, let's start our own little church. And they break off and make a little splinter church that's more true to the values of the original church, right? So that's it. It's just a dynamic. I don't know if there's a name for it, but it happens whether you're a band, a label, a fashion house, a religion. It's someone should study it, and someone should, in college, some smarter person should do an anthropological study of it in college.
Epitaph started as a small label, and at some point in the I'm assuming in the mid '90s, it just blew up. Right? It became like you're putting out all these records, all these bands are on the cover of Spin and whatnot. Yeah. Did you catch much backlash for that?
Yes. Yeah. So what you're referring to, '94 when Offspring came out. Spin Magazine said they called it the year that punk broke. Yes. And Offspring had a platinum record, Green Day had a platinum record, Rancid had a gold or platinum record, Bad Religion put out Stranger Than Fiction the same year, gold platinum record, right? So suddenly punk rock, which was was a major label thing in the beginning because it was the Ramones and the Sex Pistols, but those records never even went gold. Like those were underground records. Major labels said, "Oh, this doesn't work. Let's move on to the next thing." Right? They went on to sort of like, dance pop or whatever. But then punk rock broke first from Epitaph in '94. Yeah. And when that started to happen, I got a lot of flack.
That was like pre-internet too, kind of.
It was the beginning of email. Yeah, it was the beginning of it. But it was chat rooms and message boards. But
did that ever bother you? Like, fuck, who cares?
A little of both. Yeah, it bothered me a little. But yeah, people were mad at me for. That's why I made the sellout shirt.
I love that shit.
But yeah, people would accuse us of selling out punk because suddenly punk CDs were in chain stores and
Power and shit.
Yeah,
MTV was embracing the whole. Yeah,
but I was never trying to keep our music away from kids. You know what I mean? Like, so for me, it was a win. Like for me, I achieved what I was always trying to do. I couldn't believe. I'd succeeded beyond my wildest dreams. So, but yeah, they said I sold out punk, I ruined punk, I blah blah blah. So
probably the same people were buying the records too. Still the ones talking crap about it.
Anyway, it's all good.
But the major labels came around and tried to buy you back then too.
Yes, yeah. Bigger companies have been trying to buy me the whole time. I mean, it's been happening. I mean, it's still happening. Yeah.
Damn.
Was there a small part of you like, okay, I've achieved pretty much everything I was trying to. Why don't I just turn this thing over to someone, let someone else do it, sell it, and I'm just going to go vacation and start another thing?
No, I never wanted to do it because I felt like that my label was founded on DIY values, and a lot of my bands signed to me and stayed with me, right? And they had like Rancid. A lot of my bands had offers to go to majors and they didn't, even though Offspring famously did. And anyway, I'm not criticizing any of the ones that did. But the thing is,
we did
go to. I'm really not. I mean, I'm really honestly not criticizing anybody.
I know.
But many of them didn't, right? Yeah. And so the thing is, it wouldn't be fair for me to get some big payday by taking major label money when all my bands didn't.
Yeah.
You know what I mean?
Yeah.
So it just would never feel right. I felt like, I need to be the guy, because all indie labels always sell. I probably Ian won't, and I won't either. Like, me and Ian are going to be the guys who never did.
Yeah.
That's what I want. When someone offers me like the real fuck you money, which has happened at least 3 times.
Damn.
I just think about it, and then I think about what that would feel like to take it.
Yeah.
And I know I couldn't even sleep at night.
Yeah.
So I decided, it's just not worth it.
Gain the world, lose your soul type of
Yeah,
thing.
yeah. I mean,
I feel the same.
This is a somewhat left field question, but for us on the East Coast, when we looked at California in that kind of 90s era, there's 2 labels that kind of stood out that represented lifestyles to us. One was Epitaph, the other was Death Row Records. Did you ever swim in the same circles as those guys back in the...
Yeah, man. One time I went to lunch with Jimmy and Suge and what's the guy from Priority Records? Fred Turner?
Sure.
Yeah, look me up on that.
What year was that? Like, what was that when everything was going?
That was like when it was happening. That was like when it was blowing up, like 95-ish.
Like,
yeah.
They wanted to meet with you?
Yeah, we were discussing maybe doing something, all 3 of us.
Wow.
Yeah,
crazy.
Yeah. Yeah.
Were they trying to get you to merge or do something, or even?
Yeah, it was creative conversations about maybe creating a label that would have like Death Row and Epitaph and Interscope and
it's like all the rebel music in one place.
Oh, Brian Turner. Brian Turner. Yeah. So Brian Turner and me and Jimmy and Suge.
Was that intimidating at all? No. He didn't care. Right?
Yeah, I guess it was intimidating. I mean, it's hard to remember. I mean, I was excited,
Suge
like
yeah. I guess they were like the biggest kind of. Well, they weren't independent though. They were the Interscope.
Well, they're definitely parallel.
Well, Death Row was, and Death Row was formed when sort of in the aftermath of NWA, no pun intended.
No pun intended. Aftermath.
Brian Turner signed. Brian Turner had NWA, and he decided to keep Cube, and he sold Dre to Jimmy.
Wow.
Dre and Suge went to Jimmy at Interscope, and Cube stayed with Brian Turner at Priority.
Did those amazing
and then
records.
they formed Death Row over at Interscope. So that's and it was sort of an embedded indie at Interscope, and they had all those huge big hits. But I'll tell you what influenced me at Epitaph more than Death Row is prior to Death Row, is that before my Offspring record, I was still selling a lot of records. I had big records. Like I said, I shipped 100,000 of Against the Grain.
Yeah.
I had big records by Pennywise. I think Pennywise Straight Ahead.
Yeah.
We had Offspring Ignition. We had Rancid Let's Go. We had all these big records, right? And they were adding up, and we were becoming a powerhouse. And then Straight Outta Compton came out right around that time.
Right.
I guess Straight Outta Compton probably came out in 92 or 93, something like that, I'm guessing. And they were doing bus benches around town, and the song was on the radio, and this band was like doing these insane shows in L.A.
And we didn't see it on the East Coast.
Yeah.
We didn't see
and the record went gold, and then the record went platinum, and it was an indie record distributed by my distributor.
Oh,
the same distributors that Epitaph was
that
doing,
Caroline
right?
Distribute?
It was Red.
Oh yeah, Red. Yeah. So
I looked at that and I said, "Holy shit, that's an indie." Now it's rap. It's not punk. But gangster rap is sort of a transgressive form of music, just like punk rock,
100%.
just in a different way.
100%.
And so I looked at that, and I'm like, and they're doing snipes and bus benches, and that gave me the idea to do snipes and bus benches for punk music. So I started doing that for my bands, actually, from seeing like what NWA were doing.
Still doing that. I see them all around. Yeah.
And then when Offspring blew up, and it started to blow up and really cross over, and I knew it was going to be a platinum record, and the majors started coming to me and saying, "Hey, you should do a deal with us because an indie can't really have a platinum record." The thing that I thought about was NWA. Well, they had a platinum record.
Wow.
And they were indie.
I didn't even know that. Did you know that?
That was in 1988 when that was released.
When it was released. So so probably it was like 89, 90 by the time it was going platinum. Yeah. Right.
Wow.
So that was an example to me, and so I said, well, no, if they could have a platinum record, without a major's help. Why can't I?
And it wasn't even poppy music. It was aggressive hip hop.
No, super aggressive. Yeah. Mm-hmm. So that was very. Those guys were very influential to me.
So to this day, was Offspring the biggest record probably?
Yeah, for sure. I mean, I think it would probably be the biggest independent record of all time, except for Adele came along and.
She was independent too?
Yeah, that came out on Beggar's Banquet, Martin Mills label.
I didn't know that either. I'm a fan.
Yeah, so that one was bigger than Offspring.
So after the Offspring record, they left after that? Or was the one after that?
No.
After Smash.
After Smash, they left, but they kept. I put the next one was called Ixnay on the Hombre.
Yeah.
I put that one out in Europe, and they put it out. Sony put it out here.
Okay. That was Fly for a White Guy one, I think.
No,
Maybe.
It wasn't. That was the one after that.
Okay.
There wasn't a big hit on it. There was just a minor hit on it.
Okay.
Yeah.
So they left, and then Casey, what year did we sign now? So 97. 97?
97 was it?
So yeah, Rusty remembers going to he was Brett was doing Out Come the Wolves.
Oh yeah.
Electric Lady on 8th Street.
Yeah.
And we came by with a demo.
We paid you the demo.
Rad. Those were good times.
Yeah. It was funny. You guys were so involved in that recording, and everyone painted their nails. And it was like one of those we're in here together as a crew.
Yeah.
And I remember Tim saying, "Oh, come by. You got to hear the songs. Oh yeah, bring that tape by. Let Mr. Brett hear it."
That's rad.
And they were like,
that's cool. Yeah.
And unbeknownst to us, because at the time that record was just being made, and we had no idea how huge it was going to be.
Yeah.
So we roll in with our shitty little demo.
Yeah.
And you're making like one of the greatest punk rock records, of our time.
It sure is. Man.
It's one of the greatest ever, man. That record, man.
It's like, hey, check out our demo. Hey, don't you want to sign us? Let's go on tour next week.
I hope I was I nice to you guys? I hope I was.
Yeah.
You were.
All right, good.
And I think he gave us advice to maybe work on the songs more, and then we signed the Blackout, and then we put that record out, and then I think that's what Rancid heard. You heard that, and that's when we met you and we signed with you.
Cool, man. Yeah.
And
that was Bill Wilson from Blackout?
Yeah.
Yeah, he's still around.
I talked to him recently.
He's in the music business, yeah.
So I remember that coming out here, had a showcase or something. You were there, MTA was there, and Blackout was there, right? Was that 96?
I remember Bill saying, "Yeah, I'm going to come out. I want to talk to you about this next record." And we had been speaking with you, and we were like, "Man, if we can do a deal with Epitaph, that's where we're going."
Because I thought we're the first East Coast band.
We wanted you as a label as our first choice.
Yeah.
And I thought we're the first East Coast band. We weren't. It was Down by Law.
Oh, Down by Law was the first
We were the first New York, I guess, band back then. There was no other band really.
Yeah. You're the first New York band for sure.
So then we signed, and then that was Thick in the Water. We did that with Larry Bucksbaum, rest in peace. You know he passed away, right?
No, I didn't know.
Yeah, Larry Bucksbaum, he passed away. That was in New York.
Yeah.
And that's Adam's first album with the band.
That was indeed. And then we did that record. We followed that up with FTTW, which you produced with us.
In Brooklyn.
In Brooklyn, New York. And you had
in
just...
shitty Brooklyn, before trendy Brooklyn.
You had just come back from a...
When it was still Brooklyn.
Yeah.
You had just come back from a extended vacation, shall we say.
Oh, it was I just gotten clean?
Yes, you had just gotten clean.
Right, cool. You can say that. I don't care.
Yeah.
Okay, yeah. Okay. Yeah, because when we first did Thick in the Water, you were about to go to rehab.
Yeah. I don't mind talking about that stuff, yeah.
Okay, I could.
Yeah.
All right, excellent. Let's get into that.
Because he's had issues with... Adam's sober now.
So I know... So your battle was specifically with heroin?
Yeah, I had one with heroin, with crack, cocaine, with pretty much all mood-altering substances.
Attaboy. If you're going to do it, do it. I'm just curious. After, you seem to be on top of the world at that point. It seemed like everything's going great, and you have this kind of monkey on your back, so to speak. I'm curious if there was one event or one moment where you're like, man, I'm done. I'm cleaning up. I'm stepping into the light, so to speak. If there was one moment in your life that kind of defined and made you take that last step.
Yeah, no, it wasn't like that at all. I got arrested and was in county jail.
Remember that, the mustache?
Yeah.
I remember Brett.
That's
Brett
what-
Oh, that's right.
So-
the Vato
Yeah,
mustache.
yeah. So I mean, I'd been trying to get clean.
Brett had the mustache. It was so awesome.
Well, that was after having been
Okay,
in jail.
okay.
Yeah. But yeah. So I mean, I'd been trying really hard to get clean, and wasn't able to do it. And got popped for possession.
Oh man.
Twice, and you know.
Was that during the whole time on running this label?
No.
Yeah.
No, I grew the label. I was clean and sober for. I was clean and sober for 7.5 years, from April 14th, 1987, all the way into the mid 90s, almost into the late 94.
Okay.
Wow.
Okay, so and then as we've discussed in this podcast, like by the end of 94, I was like, the music industry's wunderkind, and I had the biggest label in the world. I was on top of the world. So I just thought I thought I wasn't an addict anymore.
Yeah.
That's why, I just thought, okay, well, just drink occasionally and
Celebrate
be
a
a
little bit,
normal
yeah.
person now, right?
Yeah.
Yeah. I wasn't even celebrating. I was just thinking like, okay, I'm an adult and I got this, right?
Yeah.
Anyway, obviously I was wrong about that. And so fast forward to, to 97, I'd been on a run, and
That's when we signed too.
yeah. My second clean date was December 21st, 1997. So I got clean again. So I was basically went on a run that lasted a little under 3 years.
Okay.
But it was pretty nightmarish, and it wasn't like I had some kind of an epiphany where I should really turn over a new leaf. I mean, I was, I was in big trouble. I was in really, really bad shape. And anyway, so yeah,
Were you gonna do time? They were gonna
I got popped twice. I was looking at either doing 6 months or staying clean for a year. Right, I got a deal. There's called there's a proposition in California to help addicts, which is actually a really good thing. So anyway, it was basically that I took that. I decided to stay clean for a year instead of doing 6 months in county.
Wow, man.
Yeah.
That was probably scary as hell too.
No, because I was out of my mind.
Okay.
Nothing was scary.
And am I right in remembering that you were
Dark side.
you were in rehab at the same time Scott Weiland was in rehab?
No, I was in there with his brother Michael.
Ah.
Although I knew Scott.
How'd you know that? That's good for me. I know that.
We would play chess when we were making FTTW, and Brett would discuss his experiences in rehab.
Yeah. Oh, I was really dear friends with Michael Weiland, Scott's brother, who was also an addict, and he's, rest in peace, but he's no longer with us because of the disease of addiction. He wasn't able to get straight, and he's dead now. And so is Scott. So their poor mother. Can you imagine?
I can't imagine.
I've always wondered what
sons,
keeps some people on the straight and narrow and pulls others off. It's really hard to get a read on what that X factor is. That some people just escape and some people never do.
Yeah.
Well, for Toby, you saw your brothers, and you're like, no, I'm scared straight.
Yeah, they scared me straight as a kid for sure, like not to try anything. But they weren't doing a lot of shit, drinking, smoking weed, whatever they do in the house. But still, when you're younger, look up to your brothers, like, you know what I mean? See them drunk. I don't want anything to do with it,
Yeah. Yeah. Anyway, I don't know.
How long sober now for?
Over 20 years now.
Congratulations, man.
Thank you.
That's amazing.
You still
man.
playing chess?
Yeah, a lot. Every day.
I remember.
Rematch time.
Are you still playing?
Nah, I haven't played it.
I'll play
in
you.
a long
I'll
time.
play you right after this.
I remember doing recording that record with you. It was free. It was the winter, remember?
Mm-hmm.
In Coyote Studios. We did. How many weeks did we do there? And then he left and came back, right?
Probably 2 or 3 at least. Yeah,
I think it was 2 weeks in
typical. Yeah.
Coyote.
I remember the day that Freddie came with everybody there to do Guilty by Association. He came to the studio. We had 40
That
ounces.
was fun. Yeah.
It was just a good vibe, and we picked that studio obviously because you did Life Won't Wait there, right? Some of the stuff in Life Won't Wait was
Some
right?
overdubs. Yeah.
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 So that was one of the funnest recording situations for us.
yeah.
I think the energy.
Oh,
too.
it's great.
And we did the demos, the Tim Armstrongs.
And there was 0 Pro Tools. It was all.
Yeah, it was all
that's
tape.
right.
Yeah.
All tape.
Yeah.
How long did we record that for? How many weeks was
Yeah,
that?
it was 2 weeks in there.
Yeah, it was fun.
But that was just for the recording.
It's gonna be 20 years for that record next year.
Yeah, we did a couple days of pre-pro. I remember in some rehearsal room. I hung out with you guys. Remember?
Yeah.
that?
Ultrasound, I believe.
Yeah.
Ultrasound in the city.
And I think we did the Suicidal Tendencies cover during those sessions as well. I think we did a cover of I Want More. Yeah, I think that's where that comes from. Sounds like it. Has the same sound.
So that was 90. That was 98. We recorded that.
Yeah.
Because the record came out
97, 98.
Because it came out in 99, right? FTTW.
Yeah, released in 99.
And then you had been sober then for almost 2 years from then at that point, right?
Yeah, like I said, December 21st, 97 was my date. So that's the last. The day before that was my last time using.
Do you remember? Damn, you remember where you were? Were you in the East Coast or out here? Or?
Yeah, I remember where I was. But it was at my house. Yeah.
Oh, okay.
Yeah.
And we used to always stay at your house too. Me and my wife, so thank you for that. We used to always,
sure,
we used to always
yeah.
put us up there at your house.
Yeah, send my love to Moon.
I will.
Yeah.
So then that record came out of FTTW, and then we toured on that for a long time, right? Epitaph.
We did. I remember there was the Punkorama cassettes would come out,
Yeah,
and that was great for us. Those
incredible.
were amazing for us.
I want to talk about those too. All the Warped Tour compilations.
Yeah, and then we did was it the Epitaph Summer Nationals, and then was
Great
it the
show.
Punkorama tours that we did?
Punkorama Tour, Bouncing Souls, US Bombs.
Yeah.
But like all those CDs compilations were so helpful to people who never heard of us before. Just because it was Epitaph, kids would listen to it and see the new bands on it.
And
I remember.
And to this day, I'll run into random people in California and be like, H2O, weren't you on a Punkorama comp?
Yeah,
That's
for sure.
Yeah, no, those comps were great things for driving discovery and helping people discover new bands and new music.
That something
they were only
new?
$5, you know.
Was that something you guys came up with? That Epitaph started that?
Yeah, I mean, we didn't start the punk rock comp. You know? I mean, obviously, I grew up on with great punk comps, but we had the idea of putting them out there for only $5, which is basically the cost. You know what I mean? So so with mechanical royalties and pressing and shipping and all that stuff. So, but the idea was just put them out there, make no money on them, but let people discover our groups. You know, so.
It was so helpful, man. Like to this day, people still talk about that.
Invite more people to the party.
Yeah.
Especially on the Warped Tour ones too.
Yeah.
And then, what else?
Well, us leaving.
Oh yeah,
Epitaph.
so that was a move that I don't know, man.
Leaving Epitaph.
Yeah.
Yeah, I know.
Yeah, I never had any hard feelings on that, you know, because I always just, you know, we always do the best we can.
Yeah.
And sometimes, you know, bands want to try other things. My own band did that. You know, so I mean,
you guys did what you guys signed to?
Bad Religion went to Atlantic for a few records. And then they came back to Epitaph for Process of Belief.
Yeah.
Yeah, because I left the band.
Wow.
Yeah, so yeah, I mean, I'm never, you know, as long as it's done the way you guys did it, which was mellow, which was like, hey man, cool, you know, we did our 3 records, we did our contract, now we're gonna try something new, and that's rad, you know.
Yeah.
It was a face-to-face conversation too.
Yeah, yeah,
with you and Todd,
it was all super friendly and honest. I respect it, you know. Like I don't think of, you know, I don't own my bands, you know what I mean?
Yeah.
They own themselves, you know what I mean? They you know, they should. You know,
Try
see what's
things.
out there in the world and try things.
Yeah, I got inspired by like seeing 7 Seconds do that. Like when they kind of went, was Restless a major label? Restless Records. I think it was a major, wasn't it?
I don't remember. I
remember them doing so. Other bands do that. Like, and then the Clash did that. Like a lot of bands were doing the trying the major label thing. But
Sure.
a couple bands did that with you and came back though, right? It wasn't just Bad Religion.
Yeah. Oh yeah. 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 A few like Motion City Soundtrack.
Oh, yeah.
Went to a major label and then came back to Epitaph. Bad Religion went to a major, came back on Epitaph. Anyway, I'm sure it was, you know, it's fun to try different stuff. You know?
Yeah, I wouldn't say it was a really fun experience, but we've already discussed that in this podcast already. But I feel like the move back then we thought was the right thing to do and try something different. And I don't know.
Yeah, there was. I remember at the time it was always a conflict within the band where you had one person is like, I want my shot.
Yeah,
and another person would be like, but it's family and it's a label that is based and run on family and there's family ties with Epitaph. So it was definitely like a push-pull with us.
Yeah, I can relate, man. I understand, but I just have to say, like, you know, even with family, you know what I mean? Like, I love my daughters, but I've got to fucking give her away someday. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
This is like, you know,
They have to live their own life, right?
yeah, none of us own each other. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
So it's all good. You know, we're all just on this, you know, trudging this road together.
No, I appreciate that. I appreciate you being part of FTTW record, signing us. All that was an exciting time for us, back then. And
That was the best of times.
Best of times. And we get treated better here than almost anywhere we've ever been in our life. I remember like our trailer got broken into, and you guys bought us gear. I don't know if you know that happened, but it happened. Just like the way we got treated on it, was super valuable. We had all of our friends on the stage with a bouncing soul sign. Now it's like front sign. Because at first, then they started coming over, right? Like a lot of our
Madball. We did Madball
Records.
records. Yeah.
Record.
Remember that? Yeah.
It was just such a magical time to be a part of this whole thing. You had Warped Tour was happening.
Yeah.
Epitaph was blowing up.
Yeah.
It seemed like the rising tide raised all the ships. Everyone's shows were great.
Yeah,
it was such a beautiful moment.
Yeah, I often think of it in that way, the sea level rising. Yeah. It helped the whole indie music scene.
It did. And all the bands that like people were bummed to call them sellouts, those bands helped us. As much, you know what I mean? All the kids who were like bumming on the bands who were getting so popular, they helped the little bands who weren't popular. You know what I mean? Like it all helped each other.
Yeah.
It opened so many doors for us, man.
Which inspired Bootstraps, which was on it.
Yeah. So how do you feel now in 2018 about, I guess, punk or where everything is now with everything that's happened since then?
I'm actually really excited about music. I mean, obviously, I'm a business guy and a dad. I'm not a punk anymore.
Yeah.
But I just wrote a new Bad Religion album with my band and recorded it, and we have a new album coming out. I'm going to plug my band on your podcast. we have a new record coming out. We haven't announced a street date, but we've dropped a couple singles already.
That's awesome, man.
Will you be touring with the band?
No, I don't. I'm not toured in years, but they continue to tour. So a lot of the legacy bands, like my band and Rancid and those guys, they're still out there doing it and plugging away and making good music. You guys, same thing. And then, there's a lot of really cool young bands that I'm continuing to work with.
Yeah.
Joyce Manor.
Interrupters.
These guys, Joyce Manor.
Yeah, I heard of that.
Who I love. Put out a record this year. It's one of my favorite records. Interrupters are a great band, and they got the number 4 song in the country right now.
Wow.
She's Kerosene. It's a big hit.
That's awesome. Good for them.
I'm signing a really powerful young feminist band called Mannequin Pussy.
Okay, that's a great name.
Great name and a great band.
Where are they from?
They're East Coast. I think they're from Philly, but I mix up my East Coast. So anyway, yeah.
No, I haven't.
Check them out.
Yeah.
They're phenomenal. But anyway, there's just I just signed a young hardcore band, or you could call them post-hardcore from Canada called La Dispute.
Oh yeah,
who are super
band,
political, super talented. So
I heard of that. Awesome.
yeah, so it's still happening. There's still bands out there touring in vans and kids, kids getting sweaty and who believe in something, dancing together. So, and I'm just grateful that I get to do this for my job still when I'm an old man. So
we'll say it's the same thing every time we book a tour and we see a crowd in front of us.
Yeah.
Like we were in Chile and there's 800 kids singing along. And it's like, this is amazing.
I got to show you something. Hold on. This is you're gonna laugh at this really hard. This won't really make any sense to the podcast people because I'm going to show these guys a picture. It's going to make them laugh. Here, pass this around.
Oh yeah.
You seen that?
We definitely.
I've seen that.
Aren't you guys a little?
I love that shit.
Listening to punk music and we're the band.
It's like 80s punk rock. It's amazing, man. That's the truth, though, man. It's crazy, like seeing how a lot of the punk rockers age compared to like the rock stars.
There's Stefan from the Descendants.
It's awesome.
I know. I know. I mean, how is it that the Rolling Stones are booking a new tour and the Ramones are all dead?
I know.
Like.
But on the other hand,
they can afford blood transfusions. The Ramones couldn't.
Exactly.
But there are a lot of punk bands that are still playing though too. That are hanging in there. You know what I mean? Like and still like have energy and.
Mine is.
Yeah, and John Joseph Cromax, like 55 years old, like still like 100% on stage. Is this the first Bad Religion record you wrote in a long time?
No, I've never stopped.
Okay.
I mean, since they came back to since Process of Belief, I've been writing on all of them. I just don't tour anymore.
Yeah. What's the last tour you did with Bad Religion?
Well, I did a. I guess the last real tour was Recipe for Hate because Stranger Than Fiction, I wrote the record and played on it, and then I sort of left the band.
Okay.
And then when they came back to the label and I rejoined the band for Process of Belief, I toured a little bit. I did a couple of weeks in Europe with them.
Wow.
So, yeah.
It's hard leaving kids that go on tour now, right? It's like, it's a different world.
Yeah, yeah.
How about for guitar playing?
I mean, I play on the records, but I've never been much of a guitar player.
He's still producing, obviously. He still love producing all that.
Yeah, I played a single I played a guitar solo on the new single.
Oh, nice.
Yeah, so
that's awesome.
Check it out. What a sample!
Hopefully we get some angry, rebellious punk rock out of you guys. Yeah, I think we certainly need it.
Yeah. After the podcast, come upstairs. I'll play a couple of new songs.
Okay, awesome.
If you want to hear them.
I think we covered a lot, right?
We did. We did.
We covered a lot. Yeah. Well, I appreciate you being here for all of us and what you did for music, what you did for H2O, what you continue to do for this type of music, and we appreciate that you're here, and you have an amazing legacy and everything you contributed. What I would say, contributed for us. We appreciate that, like everything, man. Like
you're a huge part of this band's history, and we're forever grateful for what.
Whether you think you are or not, it had a major impact on us.
Well, thanks, you guys. It's a real honor to be on your podcast.
Thank you, Mr. Brett. Oh yeah, please put down your gun. we should play a clip of that. I'm gonna play a clip of that in there.
Clip of Mr. Brett.
Thank you, man. We covered a lot.
Sure.
That was fun, man.
Oh, you know what? Can I ask one more thing? Can I ask one more thing?
This is where we get that. Oh, we got more question.
Brett, there's a final question. So, what keeps you going? Like some people have like exercise or their coffee or their family. What keeps you positive or I mean, I know it's hard with the politics and what's happening with the administration, everything going on, but what keeps you going every day? Like what is something that keeps you still passionate at your age and everything?
Well, it's not what keeps me passionate, but you first asked what keeps me going. And
yeah.
And I do a lot of meditation.
Okay.
I've been meditating for over 30 years. And,
wow. You do too, right?
Do you follow a specific system?
Yeah, I do a technique called Vipassana, which is mindfulness meditation. It's the meditation taught by the Buddha. And, I do over an hour a day.
Wow.
Yeah.
That's before you start your day, just in the morning or something?
I mean, I do 40 minutes in the morning.
Yeah.
I do it throughout the day.
You just block out shit and just do it.
No, you don't block out shit. It's the exact opposite.
Okay.
You become aware of everything in the present moment.
Okay. That's awesome. So that's your thing to get you through. That helps everything. Like if you
it really does. I can't recommend it enough, but that's what I do.
And if you never missed a day, or if you missed a day, it kind of puts everything off.
I missed many days. In the dark days of my addiction, I didn't really do it. No.
Okay.
It's not really possible to do it while you're on mind altering substances, but.
Yeah. My wife does. What's it called?
Meditation. I think she did.
Yeah.
She did
trans. Yeah. She still does that. She does that too.
I started. That's the one I started with.
She loves it, man.
Beatles were really hot.
Yeah. Yeah. I started on that when I was 14 in 1976.
Wow.
I started this year.
I don't know. I don't know. It got in my where I found out about it, but I found out about it and I took a course. I had progressive parents and they let me sign up for TM when I was 14.
I was going to say, my one New Year's resolution this year was to meditate all 365 days.
Have you done it?
Messed up a couple of days, but
365 days.
Yeah, that was my goal starting this year, the one resolution, and I definitely found it to be very helpful. Yeah, it's real.
I think about trying that. You don't do yoga?
No.
Yeah, me either. I don't do that. People tell me I should try it, but Rusty, what's your regimen?
My regimen? Coffee. Dogs.
I love coffee too.
Dog walk, coffee.
Both these guys are crazy coffee dudes, man. Like
keeps you.
No, I am too, man.
Focus.
How many cups a day you want? You think 3, 4?
About 4.
Yeah, I think it's Rusty too. What about you, Adam?
I don't know. I just keep filling my cup up when it gets about halfway down, so I don't really keep track.
Coffee chain.
You know, one more thing, I feel really dumb about this. I was looking up stuff last night about Brett and the Epitaph logo, and I just realized that the Epitaph logo is going to sound so dumb.
You just
I'm such a
realized what it is?
That it's a gravestone. I didn't even realize it, man. I'm such an idiot.
That's amazing.
I know. I looked at it last night. I was like, holy fuck, this is a fucking great. I never thought about it. I saw it was like a cool looking E. I don't know, like. I'm a total poser, everybody. Thank you. Thanks for listening. I'm a poser. Thank you, Brett Gurewitz. Thank you.
Thanks, Toby.
Awesome. I recorded that episode like in October, along with the other first 4 you guys heard before that. That's going to be kind of like my MO, where after I do an interview, I wait and I realize, oh shit, I had more questions for them. So usually there's going to be some extra stuff at the end of all my episodes. It's kind of like the theme of what I've been doing. I'm sorry, I'm just a spaz and I don't get all the questions I need to. And sometimes I just like OCD and bug out on the what I could have, should have asked them, and I get them back on the phone. Also, I know you guys were saying that Rusty Pistachio was super low on those 3 episodes. But yeah, Rusty talks like this really quietly, sometimes, so it's really hard to hear what he's saying. So that's why I got to do your best to listen as hard as you can. But we turn Rusty up as loud as possible, and that's just the way he talks. We love Rusty for that. So enjoy some more questions with Brett Gurewitz. Thanks, guys. So I mean, we talked. I already listened to the episode. We talked about so much stuff, and but there was just a couple more questions like that I wanted to ask you. And do the stuff. I'm gonna send you everything when it's all put together. But even just the beginning with you, we were talking about politics and stuff. That stuff is so amazing, man. So I definitely want to let you hear it. Make sure you're cool with it. But what I want to ask you is that you mentioned too that you started. We mentioned earlier that when we were talking is about you started doing meditation at a really young age, right? I think your parents turned you on to that. I think you mentioned that, correct?
No, my parents did not turn me on to it. What happened was that I stumbled upon a book on transcendental meditation in the mall at Pickwick Bookstore. Do you remember Pickwick Books?
Yeah, I do. Yeah.
Like I actually discovered punk rock at Pickwick Books too. Like,
oh wow,
it's funny.
So
like you'd be in the mall with your parents, and you'd go to the bookstore, and they'd have you'd find out about the world. That was like before the internet. But anyway,
yeah.
So it was, I don't know, it was like 76 or something. And it was like, TM was like the big fad in the U.S. at that time. That's when it was hitting the U.S.,
Yeah.
And I was looking at the book, and I showed it to my mom, and I said, hey, I want to try this. Or I think I said, would you buy me the book? I said, I had the book, and I said, I want to try this. And, they had classes in
That's amazing.
Reseda. So I basically asked my mom if I could take these classes.
But your parents were pretty open minded about was there any like pressures for you, like you have to go to college, you have to do this? Was there any certain mold that they wanted you to fit, or were they pretty just open minded, like whatever you want to do we support?
They wanted me to go to college, and they wanted me to do well, but at the same time, yes, they were super supportive parents, and they were pretty open minded, But, they wanted me to be a good kid and stay in school, which I didn't do.
You did. So did you get good grades?
Well, no. I mean, I'm a high school dropout.
Oh, okay. I didn't know that. Wow. Okay.
Yeah, that's cool.
Yeah, I mean, I hated school too, and I got really bad grades, but I kind of forced myself to do it, and it's interesting because my son's having a rough time in school now too. Like he really loves music and skateboarding and creating music, but he can't stand school, and I'm just trying to focus on that with him right now, just to get him through it. So you just got to pass. You just got to make it through, and then you can do what you want to do. But so that, I guess it leads me to another question. You just mentioned about going to that place. So what was your first exposure to punk music? I didn't even ask you that.
Yeah, I mean, obviously, I was reading a little bit about it.
Yeah.
Because it was starting. There are things. It hadn't really come to the suburbs of L.A.
Yeah.
In the late 70s, like in 77. It was, at least not. I was only 15 years old in 77, but I wasn't aware of it. But I had seen. I'd seen like some coffee table books with pictures of punks in England.
Yeah.
You know what I mean?
Yeah.
So I knew there was something happening. And then I got turned on to the Ramones, I think, in like 78.
Wow.
At my local my local record store that was like they sold imports, and they were like an indie record store. They weren't a chain. They were called Moby Disc. And
Moby Disc?
Yeah, it was called Moby Disc.
That's awesome.
And it was a cool record store. And it was like, it was the record store that had, it had imports from the UK, and then it had hi-fi imports from like Japanese vinyl, and then they had punk records, and and they had a big painting. They used to have big paintings of album covers out in the parking lot.
Okay.
So they had the Ramones. They had the Ramones' first album, and it was it was really big in the parking lot. It was sort of like
those guys standing there in front of the wall, I think, right? They're all standing.
Yeah, these four guys with long hair, but wearing leather jackets in front of a brick wall.
Yeah.
And then the guy in the store said, "Hey, yeah." I said, "What's cool?" Blah blah blah. And he said, "Yeah, you got to check out this Ramones record." And so so I took it home, and that was it. It was hook, line, and sinker.
Was that you think that's one of the bands that inspired you to start a band?
They are the band that inspired me. No question. Yeah. That they and I think that they were really the Pied Pipers of the indie rock movement. Because that's what punk rock turned into indie rock eventually.
100%.
And spawned all sorts of subgenres. I mean, it's and I think the Ramones were the genesis of all of that.
Yeah, I agree 100%. So when you dropped out of school and then you got inspired by music and you want to start a band and all that stuff, were your parents worried about that decision, or just like were they worried about the direction?
I don't know. I mean, I'm sure they were. As a parent now, I can only imagine.
Yeah.
But I didn't tell my parents that I was dropping out of high school to become a delinquent. I said, hey, I'm going to drop out of high school. I'm going to take the GED, and then I'll go to junior college instead, and I'll just skip, I'll skip 12th grade.
Wow.
And they're like, that's cool. So then I went to junior college and fucked around for like, a year, and then that I was taking music theory courses and philosophy of Eastern and Western philosophy courses, and whatever it was, I just thought was kind of interesting. And that wasn't really going anywhere. And then and then I sort of went from there, and I thought I'd try art school, so I went to Otis Parsons art school for a while. Did that for probably 6 months or something. So my parents were very supportive in trying to help me find my groove in life. Which I appreciate.
100%.
And I think I would have really enjoyed school later in life. Like after in my 20s, I kind of slowed down and gotten more serious, but I just wasn't really equipped for school. Like before I was like 25.
Yeah, and when they found out the name of your band, Bad Religion, did that freak them out a little bit at all, or no?
No, they didn't care. They were like, my parents aren't religious. We come from a Jewish family, but they're very reformed, they're very liberal. There wasn't, we weren't observant Jews in that way. We didn't really even have relatives that were very observant. We would, weddings and funerals were usually at the synagogue, and we had friends who had bar mitzvahs and stuff, but it wasn't, it was more of the, the cultural traditions than anything to do with, religious dogma or, anything like that. There's no praying or.
In your house,
There's nothing spooky going on in my house to do with religion.
That's the same way. Same way I'm raising my son too. Is like with no religion in our house. We really never raised him with that. He's just figuring out stuff for himself. And and then also you also mentioned too briefly that you quit Bad Religion and then you rejoined. What was there a specific reason for that? Or you just didn't want to tour anymore, and the reason why you came back?
Oh well, I mean, it's interesting. Like these guys are my oldest friends, and we when we started in our band, it was in high school, and those guys were 15 and I was 17, so like,
wow.
And that was in like 80, right?
Yeah.
So by the by the time like we got really big, you know, it was like, you know, 91 or something. And we'd already been in a band together and been friends for 11 years.
Yeah.
And then, you know, by 94, we were really blowing up. Like, we got signed to a major.
Yeah.
And we'd done a bunch of international tours. We were like huge internationally. We could sell out multiple nights at the Palladium. We could sell out stadiums in Germany. You know, and so it was like, and it already felt like I'd been doing it for a lifetime, and we were getting on each other's nerves.
I'm sure.
Like, and I'm not putting the blame on anyone else. Like, I'm sure I was a dick, but and in the moment I thought they were being dicks, and like we were just totally on each other's nerves. And my record company, Epitaph, had just started to get super successful.
Yeah, for sure.
Right at that period of time in '94, like I just put out The Offspring, and I just put out Rancid, Out Come the Wolves, right?
Yeah.
So, and then I was making Stranger Than Fiction for Bad Religion,
yeah,
and all that was happening simultaneously. And we were in the studio together, just being totally fucking, you know, just being bitches to each other,
yeah,
you know, the whole time.
I've been there.
And I just said, you know what, fuck this. Like, I don't, like, I'm 32 years old.
Mm-hmm.
I've been playing in a punk rock band for fucking, you know, 15 years already.
Yeah.
Right?
Yeah.
I'm just gonna be a grown up and do my business right now, and I don't need to fight with you fuckers, you know?
Yeah.
And quit.
Totally makes sense.
That's really what it comes down to.
Yeah.
And I thought that was a good. I thought Stranger Than Fiction was the best record, you know, we'd ever done up till then. It had every chance to be huge because it was on a major.
Yeah.
And I thought that was, you know, I just thought that would be a poetic time for me to stop. You know what I mean? Like when we were at our peak. You know. Is that
your favorite Bad Religion album? Probably.
I don't think so. I think Process might be my favorite.
Okay. And then how many years were you out of there before you came back?
Well, then they went and did 3 more records for Atlantic.
Wow.
And then I came back. So I don't know. Maybe it was 3 or 4 years before I came back.
Yeah. Need the break. Yeah.
I'm sure you can look it up somewhere.
I'm sure.
Terrible with dates.
And then and then what here's one more question too is like, what are the values from punk rock that you learned as a young kid that you kept with you your whole life, you know, with running a label and becoming a parent and, you know, being a husband and stuff, like some of those values that you try to instill into your kids?
Yeah, well, I think DIY values, you know, like sometimes no one's going to do it for you, so you got to do it yourself.
Yeah.
And also loyalty, you know,
mm-hmm.
and community, you know.
Yeah. Awesome.
And I think individualism, you know, really valuing the individual.
Yeah, that's awesome. Those are perfect ones. And then finally, I want to ask you: do you consider yourself like an optimistic or pessimistic person?
Oh, optimist.
Yeah, I see that 100%. Yeah, even through all the crazy shit happening, I feel like that mentality always prevails and always.
Yeah, you got to be.
Yeah,
you got to be.
Especially
Trump
now.
Trump is a classic pessimist, you know.
Oh my God! I know we haven't talked since we did the interview, but there's so much has happened since that with the shutdown and the state of emergency threat and all this stuff. And I've been inspired by you. I've been going more hard on social media with the political stuff because it's been getting me really, really angry. So I've been like just venting about it. And
but even his whole platform of you know, making America great again, as if it was better in the past than it is now.
Yeah.
I mean, it's cynical. It's pessimistic, right?
100%.
I mean, you know, things are getting better, and an optimist looks at things and says, let's make things better than they've ever been.
Exactly.
Not let's bring back the past. It's nothing but pessimism.
That's a good point.
Fear and pessimism.
It's so hard. It's so hard not to get caught up in it and start looking at the news and not having it affect you mentally or affect your day. It's so hard to like stay away from it because I don't want to avoid what's happening in the world right now, but like it's to try to stay positive. It's really hard to like look at that stuff, but then I feel like I don't want to live in some little bubble where I just avoid all the shit that's happening. But All right, awesome, Brett. Yeah, this is great. This is perfect. All I wanted to ask you, and we have a great. Once it's all put together, I'll send it to you and stuff. And I appreciate it really much. Appreciate it a lot, Brett.
All right, right on, man. Well, hey, thanks for a really good interview, and let's hang out sometime.
Yeah, for sure. I'll hit you up. I have your number now, so I'll reach out to you. We should get some food or something.
Yeah, we should go. We should go with the girls.
I'm down, 100%.
It'd be fun. All right.
Awesome, Brett. Have a great day.
All right. Talk to you later, Toby.
Bye. Hey guys, thanks for listening. Please rate, review, subscribe. If you haven't subscribed yet to this podcast, please do that. And whatever platform you are listening to this on, I'm glad you found me. You can rate me and review me on there also. So thank you guys sincerely for the support. I cannot wait for you guys to the next one.